Oh, God, the moment that we have all been dreading, ladies and gentlemen, on the Christmas week edition of the Jim Cornette Experience. Who else could I have but my oldest and dearest friend? And my nose is growing as we speak because I'm lying about that. But ladies and gentlemen, the one, the only, the legendary, the man you've all heard about but nobody wanted to hear, Kenny, Star Maker Bolin. Kenny, how are you this Christmas week?
Oh, hell, after an introduction like that, I could just put a gun to my head and commit suicide, for crying out loud. Jesus Christ.
Well, you know what they
Damn.
say. You know what I've always told you, whenever you do kick the bucket, and your funeral is going to be a sellout turnaway crowd, because give the people what they want to see.
And they'll turn out for it. Yeah, you've been saying that since 1976, and you see where that's got you.
Yeah, you know, I thought last year at Christmas time, I almost thought I was going to get my Christmas wish. You were in the hospital, but you nipped up and came out of it.
You hovered around that hospital like a goddamn buzzard at a dead rabbit convention. I never saw you running around there thinking that I may have had some cash stashed away somewhere, thinking maybe I had some property, maybe some stocks and bonds. You're big into those.
Wait a minute.
I never saw somebody that hung around a hospital more for his old buddy than you did. And then the minute I got better, I hardly ever saw you again. There's some miracle of God.
Thinking that you had cash stowed away, tell the fine listeners of the Cult of Cornette, the Jim Cornette Experience, what you laid on when you were in the hospital for 2 weeks in that bed, hooked up to all those devices and tubes and everything. What did you have laying under your ample ass in that green bag?
I don't care to get into the amount that shocked the doctors when they actually shocked my heart back into rhythm and dissolved that blood clot in my lung. But it was some get by money, a little something in case things went south, and plus I was looking for a new place to live. I needed to get into a home. I needed next month's rent. I needed to get all my utilities turned on. I had a needy son who also hovered around the hospital quite often, seemingly the same days you came by.
Wait a minute, we're all into honesty here on the Experience.
Are we? Oh, here at the Experience,
Here at the Experience, we're all into honesty. Ladies and gentlemen, Kenny Bolin was laying on a green bank bag with $7,500 in cash for walking around money, just in case he needed to bribe his way out of the place. And he laid on it for 2 weeks until finally they took him into surgery and to put him to sleep and shock his heart. And I was shocked that they found out he had a heart, but shock his heart back into submission. And they found that money, and there was consternation at the University of Louisville Hospital when they found out that. What'd they say? How long have you had this?
They asked how long I'd had it. I said, well, for the better part of 16 days, because it was day 16 that they shocked my heart back into rhythm. And I laid my, as you called it, my ample body, we'll call it. It wasn't necessarily my ass. Sometimes my back, sometimes had it under my arm, sometimes had it right next to my heart. And heart.
And thank you, String, for all the hee-haw fans out there.
Well, both of them knew where I was going with that one. But no, I just needed some emergency cash, and it got. And as a matter of fact, as much as you and my dear loving son, who more on him later, and Rob Dickon and various others coming down there, I barely had enough money to keep y'all happy.
You know, I don't care if anybody else likes this program here this week, but Kenny Bolin just shickles the tit out of me, as my mother used to say. But you had $7,500 in cash laying under you in a hospital bed for 2 weeks, just in case. And I was down there. I came to bring you clothing. I came to bring you supplies, and I saw that you had basically bribed the entire hospital staff. You were a man in the hospital because you were of an obese weight. You were retaining fluid. You had an irregular heartbeat, and
causing all those problems.
You had that on and off glaucoma for a while there too, and a sprained taint, I believe.
I'm seeing better now, and the taint is practically healed.
Yeah, they put a cast on it, but you basically had bribed the entire 7th floor. Well, you bribed the entire 7th floor staff of the University of Louisville Hospital into bringing you in that condition of candy bars and fried food.
M&Ms.
And I brought you fried food because I was hoping you'd kick off. And
I knew what you were doing.
I was hoping You'd
You
kick
showed
off
up with
and
two
tell
boxes
me you'd tell me where the box was instead of your son, your no good Howl at the Moon son, the prince.
You showed up with 2 full-size orders of Clarksville seafood, extra pieces, which you can't get. That's special request. French fries, tater tots, hush puppies. And no, I'm in there with a bad heart, and that's what you bring me. I requested a Subway vegetarian sandwich is what I'd requested.
No, that was the first day you requested. It was Subway, but you requested the double Philly steak and cheese. But nevertheless,
Well, okay.
You got out of the hospital. You lost.
On December the 20th, practically the anniversary of 1 year out of the hospital.
You lost a lot of weight because they had you hooked up.
As of today.
No, wait. You didn't lose 100 pounds in the hospital. You lost 80 pounds in the hospital because
No,
wrong. And they drained you like a big human waterbed is what they did.
Okay, so they set records. And I was told this by the doctors, that they did set a record for most fluid ever drained out of a human being. They drained 39 gallons of fluid in 16 days. They didn't count day 17. That fluid alone, I was told by the doctors, weighed approximately 200 pounds. So I'm sitting there thinking, well, hell, I came in here at 569 pounds. I'm checking out at 369. Well, that wasn't the case. I'd actually lost approximately 40 to 50 pounds.
Because you made a mistake and drank while you were in there. If you hadn't drunk, then you would have.
I had one of the nurses that you claim I'd bribed. We worked out a side deal, and the side deal got me unlimited Sierra Mist, unlimited low-calorie ice cream, and unlimited M&Ms if I could get her down to the gift shop in time to get them before the strict nurse came aboard. You couldn't bribe everybody.
Yeah. What are you talking about? There's some honest people at the University of Louisville Hospital?
Well, I don't know if I'd call them honest or not, but they wouldn't give me what I wanted. And as a matter of fact, they even put up a fight over me, and you would dispute this. They wouldn't let me take a shower. I'd been in there for the better part 16 days, and about day 8, I'm thinking, man,
that's your normal time interval between showers is about 8 days.
Well, 1 or 2 I don't work up a sweat, Jimmy. Why would I waste my time with water and soap if you never work up a sweat?
If you don't sweat, you don't need to bathe.
Well, of course. That's simple math. Ask George Carlin. George Carlin didn't take a bath either. Anybody complain to him? You're exactly right.
Yeah, there you go. Well, anyway, so why wouldn't they let you take a shower? I don't understand.
Well, they wanted to bathe, and I think it was those nurses thinking, hey, I'm going to get a chance to see Kenny Bolin naked. I'm going to get a chance to fondle his privates. And I think they all were in cahoots with each other to try and get me naked and hand sponge me night and day. They wouldn't let me take a shower. I basically had to crawl out of that bed, hooked up with all them tubes and everything, hide my cash, which fortunately I was able to do from you.
Well, at least you have enough folds and crevices in your body that you were able to hide that $7,500 in that green bag without. He showed it to me, ladies and gentlemen.
This is
when I was there, just so you know.
Folds and crevices you're going with.
That's where you're going. Well, anyway, they wouldn't let you bathe because of all of the tubes coming out of you.
So what I did is I crawled into that shower with the nurse that I had bribed, who was also getting me the M&Ms and the various other implements that I like to have for my dinner, the pudding and the pineapple and various things.
Well, but did you eat your meat? Because if you don't eat your meat, you can't have any pudding.
I had to eat my meat. That was part of the stipulations. I think Pink Floyd came up with that. Yeah. So I crawled into the shower, and I'd been in there the better part of about 3 minutes. It'd been the first time, I guess, in 8, 9, 10 days that steamy hot water had hit my lovely body. And apparently the nurses liked it, whether you did or not. And about 4 minutes in, that strict nurse came in and literally grabbed me and pulled me out of the shower, toweled me down, put me back in bed, and said I wasn't permitted to take a shower, that I was risking damage to all those tubes and implements that they had going in and out of my body, which I didn't care. I wanted a goddamn bath. That's all I wanted. And I was willing to take the risk. It was my
That's the first time I've known you for 40 years, and that's the first time I've heard you say those English words in that order. I wanted a goddamn bath.
I wanted a goddamn bath. Well, now you know my limit. About day 8, 9, 10, right around there, I start feeling, hey, a little soap and water wouldn't hurt things.
Yeah.
How often do you take one?
Well, I take one pretty much daily, especially if I'm going to leave the house.
Well, what a big fucking waste of time that is. If you haven't, have you ever worked up a sweat? I know your history.
Nevertheless,
well, there you go. You're wasting your time. If you ain't sweating, you ain't bathing. That's the way I see it.
Well, you got out of the hospital though, and you went to live with a friend of yours. And I don't know if we can mention his name. Do you want to mention his name?
I will mention his name, Rob Dickon.
So you went to live with Rob Dickon, and because he took pity on you because you were in between places to live because they had sold your previous location.
They did.
And you were in between places to live while you were in the hospital, so he offered to take you into his home, and within 3 months, you were supposed to pay rent, but within 3 months, you had managed not only not to pay him any rent, but also to sell him the furniture that was in his own fucking home. You sold him the furniture that was in his apartment can you enlighten the folks on exactly how you managed to have this complete dipshit buy his own fucking furniture?
I don't know where the hell you're going with this. This is furniture that I had owned in my own home down in Louisville, Kentucky. Then I moved to Milan, Indiana, took some of my furniture and put it in storage. And then when I came back, I felt he needed an upgrade in the furniture that he had. I didn't like his furniture. A lot of his furniture I was not comfortable with. So I encouraged him to sell the shit furniture he had and to buy my good furniture and at a slight profit.
So
it was furniture owned by Kenny Bolin. I mean, don't you ever attach your name to something and get more money out of it? That's what I've always done.
The original idea was that you were going to move in with him in the apartment that was in his name with the appliances and the utilities that were in his name.
Right.
And you moved your furniture in first and then sold it to him. So
now you've got the story.
He didn't have the money. Since he didn't have the money to pay for that furniture, you just said, well, I'll just take it off the rent. So you lived rent free with this poor sap for a period of almost a year because you kept running the bill up.
This is a fucking ambush. I thought I was going to come on here and you and I were going to goddamn talk about Christmas and spirit and lift everybody's spirit.
But I just want to.
It's a fucking ambush for you to try and make me sound pathetic. And all you're doing is filling my case for me because you said took your furniture and charged him rent for it. Well, of course. What else would I do?
I'm not trying to make you sound pathetic. I'm trying to tell the listeners of the Jim Cornette Experience that what I'm talking to here is an artist, a man.
You and the Experience, y'all see it this way, huh?
Yeah, I'm us at the Experience. We see it. That I'm talking to a man who's an artist, a man who is, much like the father in A Christmas Story who used profanity the way most people use oils. You managed to take advantage of people financially the way that Michelangelo painted the Sistine Chapel ceiling.
I'm appalled. I cannot believe the spin. I've heard of the spin factor. I've heard of the factor. And I know that guy. He's on The View today. I'm going to check that out. Hell, maybe you two are in cahoots.
All right. Well,
you pled my case for me. I basically lived there 9 months in a barter deal. It took him 9 months to pay for all the furniture that he'd bought from me, and I don't think he would argue that. For crying out loud, he got a hell of a deal. He got furniture once owned by Kenny Bolin.
He's not arguing anything because he finally got rid of you, and he's feeling lucky and doesn't want to shake that fucking tiger's cage. But let's change. Let's change the subject.
Yeah, let's go somewhere a little more spirited, a little more uplifting.
After you moved out from
me nearly dying and swindling people, I figured that's where this was going to go.
Yeah, after you moved out from the apartment where you never paid a lick of rent and you actually charged the guy to live in his own home and
bartered.
That's the term.
It so happened he had the back bedroom and he didn't care to have the rest of the space. That just worked out in my favor.
He stayed in his room for the whole time because then you moved the prince in your son Catbox, and I must admit, I must explain. We called him Catbox because in your other home, the EW flop house that you ran that they sold out for you rented a house and you rented rooms to aspiring wrestling school students, and basically you made a profit on the home you were living in because you rented these wrestlers these aspiring young wrestling school students rooms in this home, but since your son, Chris, was the prince, was not able to pay the going rate, you put him in the basement, and one of his jobs was to empty the cat box. Therefore, he became known as Catbox Bolin.
Catbox Bolin. You gave him that name on TNA television, if I recall. And also the reason that everybody else had to pay a substantially higher rate in rent is the Catbox could not afford his share because he was not employed at the time. So it was only fair that everyone else pick. It's a team effort at home bowling. And everybody else picks up if someone else falls. And Christopher
Bolin Manor. Bolin Manor is what we.
Bolin Manor. Well, it had a few names.
That's what we. Yeah, it had some names, especially with the Jefferson County Sheriff's Department. But that's another story. But when Catbox, the Prince, your son Chris.
Yeah.
When he was living in the basement.
Yeah.
He actually got that room. Let's go ahead and we'll segue into the story of the Bolin family. But he actually
failed to mention that was an equal opportunity basement. That there is the next WWE World Champion lived in that basement for 2 years with the Catbox. Do you care to drop that name?
Go ahead and drop that name.
Known here as Aaron the Idol Stevens, and now known as Damian Sandown to WWE. And he lived in that basement, and that tells you what I produced out of Bolin Manor. What did you ever produce out of your home?
Well, they say all great struggling artists must starve before they achieve their stardom, and Aaron Stevens, Damian Sandow definitely starved living with you. He was one of the many
he cooked my meals on a morningly basis. He was quite a cook.
Aaron is a good cook, but explain to the folks at the Christmas season here, because we're going to talk about the Bolin family. I want to check in on how all the Bolin family is doing, but explain how Catbox Bolin, your son, the Prince, actually got his room because you kicked your mother out on Mother's Day. You evicted Ma Bolin on Mother's Day.
Here we go.
No, this is a matter of record. We talked about it on the great debate that we did with Jerry Jarrett a few years ago. Just for the listeners of the experience.
You got a memory like an elephant. I'll give you that, but go ahead.
Well, you got everything else like an elephant, so I might as well have the memory. On a few years ago on Mother's Day, Kenny Bolin bought his mother, Ma Bolin, who's a famous personality here in Louisville, second only to Mama Cornette as a famous wrestling personality, is Ma Bolin here in Louisville.
Ma Bolin.
She underwent a period of hard times and was living with you, and you bought her for Mother's Day. You bought her a bus ticket,
$73 out of my own pocket,
to go down to St. Petersburg, Florida, and see Grandma Bolin.
Grandma Bolin, 93 at the time, yeah.
And she's still living, by the way.
No, she died.
Did she die? I'm sorry, I did not know that. Well, we don't.
She died in March.
She died in March. All right. Well, Grandma, how old was she when she passed away?
Oh, 98.
She was 98 years old. So the genes in the Bolin family. But anyway,
thank you for the flowers and everything too. It was very kind of you.
Yeah, well, I'm. It's the least I could do. Believe me.
Apparently, you didn't send them. You didn't even realize she had died. Somebody recorded.
Absolute least I could do. Believe me. But
yeah, I agree.
Let's get to the point of the story here. You bought your mother, Ma Bolin, a bus ticket, $73, a Greyhound bus ticket to go to St. Petersburg and see Grandma Bolin. And then once she got to St. Petersburg, did you or did you not send her an email saying that you had rented her room since she was gone and that she was no longer welcome in Bolin Manor because you had rented her room?
That is not exactly true, because what I did is I sent her sister an email, because my mother's never had an email account. So I sent her sister an email stating that you need to keep Mom down there in Florida, that things have happened. There's been some financial adjustments made in Bolin Manor, and I'm taking in a young Australian wrestling wannabe named Marianne Patterson.
I was about to say she was female.
Yeah, she was female, and she liked having sex, and she liked paying $475 for the room that Ma Bolin was paying $190 for.
You were charging your mother rent for the basement.
No, she had the third smallest room in the home. Catbox and Aaron had the basement. So you got your facts all wrong. Now, so you had one of the tiny rooms.
You had your son and a future WWF champion in the basement. You had Ma Bolin in the third smallest room upstairs paying rent.
Right. Well, we all got to pull our weight. We all got to share the wealth.
And you evicted your mother on Mother's Day by sending her, courtesy of a $73 Greyhound bus ticket to St. Petersburg to see Grandma Bolin, and then notified by email to her sister that she had been evicted.
I had not made the final decision to evict her at that time because Mary Ann Patterson's check had not cleared yet. Once her check cleared and the $490 was good. I mean, it's simple math, Jimmy. I mean, you can do it yourself. You've already calculated the money you've lost coming onto this podcast. I gained $300 by having my mother stay down there with her mother, which I thought was better for her health and everyone involved.
Well, you got to.
I don't think there's a wrestling fan out there that'll convict me for that.
You've never been convicted, and that's one thing. You've never been convicted.
Never. Amazingly, to hear the stories you tell, you would think I had to serve 25 years at Stalag 13 somewhere or something, or maybe
I've told people the truth about you, but I've never said you've been convicted because you've never been convicted, amazingly enough, of anything in your life.
That name you gave me on OVW TV, the one, the Star Maker, I thank you for, because there were a couple of us kings running around, and I appreciate Star Maker. I earned that name. But the other one was Teflon Bolin. Nothing ever sticks to Bolin. Well, maybe if there's nothing worse sticking to me, maybe that's why it's not sticking. Maybe I'm innocent of all the charges you brought against me.
Let's talk about the Bolin family at Christmas. How's the prince doing? Your son, the prince, Chris.
Well, the prince is no longer in the country. He was living with me, of course, at
Rob. He left the country.
He was living with me at, you laugh about this. You know what this has done to me. You've heard about my postings on Facebook of the sadness that this has brought to me, that my son is no longer a part of my home. Now that I have my own home, now that I'm no longer a part of the Dickon compound over there.
And boy, did Rob get a Dickon while you were living with him, is all I've got to say.
It is his last name. Sometimes we get what we ask for. But I moved into my own place and brought my son with me. He needed a place to go. And unfortunately, things have took a turn, and he is now out of the country. He has now gone to Germany, and I can't find exactly where he's at. But was
this because of an indictment or anything, or just
I don't know.
The world.
I woke up one morning and there was a note on the coffee table that said gone to Germany. And I have heard from a couple of friends that I have over there that he's living in a luxury apartment on the east side of Erfurt, Germany, and a luxury apartment and doing very well for himself. I'm not sure what made him leave so quickly. If I had to guess, I would say business. If I had to guess.
Well, I'm familiar with the German porn industry, and by the way, I don't know how those people lost World War II, as tough as they are, but possibly has he gotten a job in the German porn industry?
I wouldn't think so. From what friends are telling, because I haven't heard from him directly as of yet, but from what I'm hearing from contacts and associates that I have over there, is that he's taken up schooling over there. He's writing blogs and various articles on racing. And as you know, he's an aspiring journalist. He's going to school at IU University. And if I had to guess, I'd say they have paid for him to go over there and enhance his studies and his schooling. And plus, I know he's got a girlfriend over there because he found her on my Facebook page and he started writing her. And she was 15 when I first knew her, but I think she's almost 18 now, though.
Well, to you, jailbait is an embryo, but nevertheless,
there's no limit in Germany, so that's why I didn't really feel all that guilty.
There's no speed limit in Germany. It's not an age of consent. There's no speed limit on the Autobahn. You've got your wires crossed there, Bolin.
Sure it's the speed limit. There's no.
It's the speed limit, not the age of consent.
I thought it was the age limit. Well, shit.
Well, that changes everything.
I gotta delete some emails if you don't mind. Thought I was all right on that.
Well, let's talk about enough about the prince. Let's talk about your brother Tim. They call him Biscuits and Gravy. Biscuits and Gravy is his nickname. Your brother Tim, and he's your little brother. He's your little brother. He's 6'6", 385, 6'6" and 385.
He slumps over a bit these days. He's got a bad back. He's more like 6'3", maybe 6'3" and a half, and then probably about 395.
What's Biscuits and Gravy doing for Christmas?
I don't know. I haven't spoke to him in quite some time. I don't really
has there been a rift in the Bolin brothers?
Well, as you know, Jimmy, I don't get along well with stupid people, and and some have labeled my brother with that title, and he had
if it was raining soup, he would be out in the yard with a fork. I will admit that, but
and one of them big wide three-pronged ones at that. Not even a good fork like you or I would use to give ourselves a fighting chance. But no, in all seriousness, we patched things up before the Prince bailed out, and I really thought he was moving down the street. I didn't realize he was going to Germany, but maybe he didn't want me to come look for him. I don't know. Maybe he felt that I would continue to try to care for him and take care of his needs and pay all of his bills as I've done in the past, and maybe he just wanted to sprint out on his own. But Timmy John, Biscuits and Gravy, he's out in Carrollton. He's got the deer shack out there that he built. I think he built this thing for a grand total of like $8,000.
Now is this the facility he was living in that was 3 stories and the first 2 stories weren't finished because they flooded often, so he lived up on top of it, or is that
to maybe label him as not so stupid? He intentionally did not finish the previous 2 levels, knowing that about 4 times a year they flood down there. And also to make him look like a bit of a genius, every flood they've had has been an inch or 2 shy of entering that 3rd level. So maybe he's a little smarter than some people give him credit for.
But he does have a little bit of a problem with gambling because he goes to the boat a lot, doesn't he? Now for the folks around the world who don't understand, here in Kentucky, casino gambling is not legal except if it's on a riverboat. That's one of those old laws, old rules. So what they do is
loopholes, they call it.
It's a loophole, they call it. You know about loopholes.
I know about loopholes. I've seen a few.
So what they do is they between here and Cincinnati, up and down the Ohio River, they have a number of boats that are docked permanently to the shore, but they have a walkway that you can go from the shore onto the boat, and as long as you gamble, so it's basically floating casinos that never go anywhere, and that's how they get that's the loophole. That's how they get around these things.
That's the loophole, and that made my brother's life when that came to fruition down there in Carrollton, Kentucky, because he moved from Pendleton, Kentucky, moved to Carrollton, built the deer shack for about $8,000 out of his own pocket. He sold his land to be able to do it. 3 stories high, facing the Kentucky River, which floods about 4 times a year. But when that river's not flooded, and when he can get into a vehicle of some type and make his way down to the casino, you can bet 3 to 4 days a week, if not 5. That's where you'll find him. And if Tim's got a $20 bill in his pocket, he's pulling a handle on a money machine somewhere. That's what he does.
Timmy John,
and he likes that. He likes to live that way.
Timmy John reminds us all of if the great actor Slim Pickens. If Slim Pickens was a giant 6'6", 385-pound man, he would be the twin brother of Timmy John. Actually, he's your half brother. His last name. Well, we shouldn't mention his last name, I guess, because we could be charged with slander here on the Experience. But they call him Biscuits and Gravy.
Biscuits and Gravy. It's probably the safe way. I don't think we can be sued for calling him Biscuits and Gravy because for whatever reason, the dumb fuck gave his own self that name because he was jealous that I was called the King Bee, the Star Maker, all the various names I've got. And he was jealous of that, so he gave him his own self the nickname Biscuits and Gravy. He called me and left that on my voicemail one day.
But now that whatever. A lot of people around, especially around the bingo halls up in Henry County, call him Biscuits and Gravy. But what about Bolin? We haven't talked about what Ma Bolin is doing now.
We're done with Ma Bolin. We've already talked about her, and we've talked about that already. We don't need to talk anymore about what's going on with Ma Bolin.
Is she happy this Christmas? Have you gotten her a nice Christmas present?
Not so much. All right. I know where you're going with it. I'll go ahead and go there with you. You know this. You set me up again. You know for a fact that Ma Bolin was living with my sister June, and June, who was dating, and we're in the South here, and sometimes words are thrown about that shouldn't be. But
don't do anything you shouldn't do here that air around the world.
Well, let's just say the young fella that she started dating and left her job over was a man of the darker persuasion. And my mother, being an old Confederate Army wife of Ray L. Stallings in Norfolk,
Who actually, I must say, was it your father or your stepfather that was the last man in the state of Kentucky arrested for cattle rustling, and that is a recorded.
That is a documented fact. Something that the Risen family is very proud of. The Risen family, the adopted family of one Kenny Starmaker Bolin, and he was the last man ever arrested and convicted of cattle rustling in the state of Kentucky, and that was in 1968. He served 2 years in the.
And it was only one cow. It was only one cow.
It was only one cow, and technically he was with the guy that stole the cow, but because he drove the getaway car, he took the full sentence right along with the guy that stole the cow, one Sanford Suter.
Well, that's the East Coast statute where, racketeering, organized crime.
Right, there you go. Yeah, you know the law. And so he was sentenced to 8 years and served 2 years and 8 months. Got out in 1970 some odd.
Yeah. Well, let's just leave it at that. Your sister June was in an interracial relationship.
But us Bolins and Risens and Stallings, we all pay for our crimes. If we commit a crime, we pay the piper, and then we get back into society.
You've never paid for the lunch. I've
never committed a crime, and I don't like buying lunch.
To answer the question, where is Ma Bolin and what is she doing this Christmas?
Ma Bolin, due to the circumstances that my sister had put her into, it wasn't really Ma Bolin's fault. She lost her job as general manager of the Dairy Queen. She was there making $48,000 a year as a general manager.
June.
My sister June.
Yeah.
Pretty good accomplishment for her because she did that with a GED. She took a GED education, got her a $48,000 a year job, and but she fell in love with a much younger, darker persuasioned individual that worked with her at the Dairy Queen, and she was told
those May-December romances.
Yeah, sort of like that. And she was told that this relationship needed to end, or she was going to lose her job. Well, my sister don't like being pushed or bullied around
because they were both together, and they didn't like relationships amongst employees, is what you're saying.
They didn't care for that. No, that was a no-go at the Dairy Queen facility. So instead of telling this young man to venture on to another store, get another job, go to another Dairy Queen or whatever, my sister took a stand and she said, well, fuck you, I quit, and gave up her $48,000 a year job and then got her a part-time job at the Dollar Tree, making about $7 an hour, about 20 hours a week. And that led to many, many months of no rent being paid, led to an eviction. I hate to hear when anyone's evicted from their home. It's a terrible thing. And so they were evicted, and right now my sister and my mother are currently homeless during the Christmas season.
Homeless at Christmas. Now, meanwhile, the Prince Catbox, your son, has just moved to Germany under questionable circumstances. So you've got plenty of room there in Bolin Manor. Why have you not welcomed your mother, who's now, what is she, 79 years old now?
70, let's see, I'm 53.
Well, you don't need to do the math. I'm close enough. The point is she's
74.
She's she's closing in on 80 years old, and she's homeless at Christmas.
Yes.
And you've got plenty of room there at Bolin Manor because your son has fled the country.
Well, I don't know what your definition of plenty of room is. It's a 1-bedroom apartment. Let's get back to the facts here. And yes, I have a large sofa that would seat any sized individual, and I've got a big recliner. And a large kitchen, a large laundry room.
So why have you not asked Ma Bolin if she wants to come and live with you?
Because there ain't no fucking room. It's just me here. It's a 1-bedroom apartment. I mean, goddamn, we all got to look out for each other. And, shit, why should I be put in the same circumstances they're in?
All right.
And technically, let me get it straight now. Let's tell the whole story for what it is. They're not technically homeless. That's just a name.
You just got an application there.
It's application. My sister.
And for all the listeners who don't know what that means, you're not supposed to, because that's merely wrestling promo talk that we've been doing for the past 40 years. But so, she's not technically homeless, is what you're saying. It's just a name, just a label that they've been.
It's just a label because she's got a roof over her head. My sister June, he's like a husband. She's been with him for 17 years and spawned 4 kids with him. JJ.
Now that's not the other gentleman that you were talking about. We're talking about the first guy, not the second guy.
No, we're talking. He's technically the first guy. We're not talking about the second guy. He's the first guy. He spawned the first 4 children with June. So I guess if there was such a law in Kentucky, they would be legally married, but they did away with that quite some time ago. Saved your ass, now that I think about it. And but they live with her sister, and you want to know about my charitable contributions? I took my sister, my nephew, and JJ out for dinner. I got them hooked up at the Golden Corral, got them a nice meal, told them to get to-go boxes in case they ran low on food where they're at, because they're living in a home right now, a double-wide trailer, and she said the last head count she took was 16 people. But
it's a double-wide, so
it's a double-wide. And she said out of her own mouth, Kenny, there's room for everybody to lay down and sleep at night. Now, is that about all one can ask for?
That's really the most that one can ask for. But you talk about dinner at the Golden Corral. Let's switch gears here for a second. If I can regain control of
and Mall Bolin is in a single wide, and there's only 8 people in that place. So if you do the math, it's about the same in either place.
8 in a single wide, 16 in a double wide. If you're yeah, it's about the same. It pretty much is.
So why overcrowd me when they've gotten used to overcrowding anyway? They've now become accustomed to it. They've been there a month or two, and I'm here all by myself.
Well, I can see that Christmas has certainly left you in a charitable frame of. Let's switch.
I got him a meal.
Yeah, let's switch gears to your new business. You talked about dinner at the Golden Corral. You have a new business you're in, rotating dinners with King Bolin. Can you tell the folks a little bit about that if anybody around Louisville, Kentucky, and wants to avail themselves of this service?
I have been labeled as probably one of the sweetest and kindest and most gentle men ever to walk the planet Earth. And when I put this on Facebook, what are you laughing about? When I put this on Facebook,
sorry, I just got a feather up my ass.
Well, you shouldn't tickle yourself that way, but you've done it before. But when I put that on Facebook because a wrestling fan gave me the idea. I had one fan says, King, I would do anything to have dinner with you and converse with you about wrestling. I said, well, you do anything. All right. Well, I don't want sex because I like females. So here's what we can do. I sell the Bolin Services shirts. They have become extremely popular since I retired from Ohio Valley Wrestling about a year and 2 months ago because they were never sold the 3.5 years that we were there. They were never up for sale. So I started selling those here recently, and they started doing very well. And then I got into the headphone business, Jimmy. Have you seen my headphones?
I've seen your headphones. They're amazing.
Beats by Bolin, Beets, not to be confused with Beats by Dre with a different spelling. Those are the knockoff of the Bolin headphones as far as I'm concerned. And what I've done is I dramatically lowered the price. The Beats, they sell anywhere from $200 to $390 a set. Well, I've due to a deal that I made in China with some very influential people over there, I get these headphones at a greatly reduced rate, put my own logo on them out of my own time and trouble with an agreement I've made with the good folks at Vistaprint, and I have the logos put on those headphones, and I sell them for a mere $30. They sound almost as good as Beats, if not better, to some testimonials. And if you have dinner with me, if you buy my headphones and my T-shirt, that only costs $55. And if there's 4 of you, then I'll have dinner with you for 90 minutes and answer any questions you have about wrestling. And you get to have dinner with Kenny Bolin at either the Golden Corral, the Hooters, or Gaddyland. I rotate the 3 so as not to overwear out our welcome.
I was about to say, you rotate these dinners around the Louisville area. So sometimes it's Golden Corral, sometimes it's at Gaddyland, sometimes it's at Hooters.
Hooters, one of your favorites.
And basically, if people buy a set of headphones and a Bolin Services T-shirt, they get not only the honor of having dinner with you, but also you cover their dinner. Is that correct?
Absolutely, yes. I cover the dinner. I make a trade with the management there.
Now, I was about to say, do you pay cash for these dinners? Do you pay cash for these dinners, or are these dinners complimentary because of your arrangement with the managers of these fine establishments?
Due to my celebrity status and some various things that I trade them that they like to receive, no, there's no cash transaction, no.
When is the last time?
Other than the cash they give me for the headphones and the shirt. Now that's cash only.
When is the last time that you paid for a meal at a restaurant in the greater metropolitan Louisville, Kentucky area?
2005 O'Charlie's with a young lady named Dawn Hilton. Dawn Hilton, I paid $18.64 because the manager I normally deal with was not there, and it still irks at me to this day.
Because you're a very you're accomplished at the barter system, and if we ever go back to the old days,
said about me all day.
if we ever go back to the old days where they used to barter like furs and skins and things and such for services, you'll because you barter pretty much everything. When is the last time you paid cash for something? Doon, 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 doon.
I would say probably 1984.
So what you provide is goods and services in exchange for goods and services around here in the area.
It worked for Daniel Boone. It worked with Festus and those guys on Gunsmoke. It worked with Davy Crockett.
Well, I know so many of your activities really.
The riflemen, they all bartered.
Yeah, so many of your business activities can't be talked about publicly because, after all, you are eligible for your Fifth Amendment rights, and so many things can't be talked about. But you've got. Oh,
did you hear what one of the fans labeled our show as today? Because you don't have the greatest reputation either. It was called The Rich Bitch versus the Meat Scammer. Well, they're still trying to stick me with that because I took advantage of a warranty here a while back. Now,
wait a minute. We're going to get into the meat scam. That's don't jump ahead. That's the main event of our program here today. But your DVD business, you do a great business. As a matter of fact, I know that for myself, I can speak for this that I never rent a DVD, or I don't involve myself with Netflix or all these other movie services because don't link
yourself into something you don't want to be a part of, Jimmy.
Well, your movies are just as readily available as most people, except the Russian subtitles. Now, sometimes they don't annoy most people, but sometimes the Russian subtitles on your DVD movies.
I force education upon the people. Anybody can read the English subtitles, but who can read the Mandarin, the Chinese, and the Russian? Those are your intelligent customers right there.
Well, it does help some of the young folks discover the miracle of foreign languages.
Jimmy, I've said it for years. I've always had my finger in the youth of America, and anything I can do to push education on these young kids, I'll shove it to them as hard as I can.
Well, that's been your motto for as long as I can remember. But I must say that you did release a video that I found very entertaining.
Yeah.
After the WWF released My Life by John Cena, you compiled a lot of footage because everybody knows you did manage John Cena. You were his first manager in OVW. You managed
first and only manager.
For years, first and only manager that John Cena's ever had. And did you not come out with a video called Our Life with Kenny Bolin and John Cena? Of
course, because his was already entitled My Life. I couldn't copy that. So I came up with Our Life because that's the God's honest truth. It was mine and his life and my good friend Rico. And I put him on the video. And as a matter of fact, we gave him some residuals off that DVD. Well, I'll tell you, I'll send him a free copy of the DVD. That's what I did.
Well, I remember
Las Vegas.
That's one thing you always do. You always give back to the community. I remember one time we were doing a fundraiser on television. We had the Scott Marshall and Kyle Reber from the McMahon Fire Department.
I remember them. Those kind-hearted firemen. I remember them. They were nice
because they were collecting money for the WHAS Crusade for Children, which Ohio Valley Wrestling and I always supported. Was the oldest and largest local fundraising program anywhere in the country.
Some people with the McMahon Fire Department collected more than shit.
I'm doing a plug here now. I'm doing a bit. Let me get
bit. Well, you do your bit, and I'll just shut up. How's that?
Shut up for a second, because as Lance Storm would say, if I can be serious for a moment, the WHAS Crusade for Children since 1951 has been the largest local fundraising effort in any community in America. They have raised well over $100 million over those 50 years for the special needs children of Kentucky and Southern Indiana. Many many children and many adults owe their lives to the WHAS Crusade for Children and all the local fire departments and all the local, it's everything every year, the first Saturday in every June from fire departments to kids doing lemonade stands to businesses to the Catholic churches.
My good friend Mike Hallman out in LaGrange Fire Department raised money for the crusade years now.
In the Louisville area raises money for the WHAS Crusade for Children every year. It's become an institution, and you can look it up, folks. I encourage you to around the world. WHAS Crusade for Children, Louisville, Kentucky, and you can contribute. It's one of the finest organizations. They've helped so many special needs children that wouldn't have had a chance otherwise. And you came on the program when I was interviewing Kyle Reaper and Scott Marshall of the McMahon Fire Department. They were making a donation for the Crusade for Children. And what did you do? You give them, you gave the kids for the Crusade for Children, you gave them 2 passes to Mr. Gaddy's.
Oh, hang on. Hey, let me tell it.
PT Strip Club.
Oh, Jimmy, now you know what my intentions were that day. As you know, I was in alignment strongly with Mark Cuban, the owner of the Dallas Mavericks. As a matter of fact, he still takes credit for this
wait a minute, because people believe me when I talk. Some way or another, Kenny Bolin actually managed to befriend Mark Cuban on the internet, and not
friends to this day.
Not only became a friend of his, but also the first video that John Cena did in professional wrestling outside of Ohio Valley Wrestling was going to Indianapolis and doing an interview with Mark Cuban and Kenny Bolin on video that we played on the OVW television program. So it's not only just the average local yokel around here. It's not just international yacht broker from Toulon, France. You conned a billionaire to think that somehow you were a real individual.
You don't think that Cuban would be onto that by now? That man still writes me on Facebook on a weekly basis. He still gets good wishes from me on every Dallas Mavericks win. And he would never fall for that. He helped me build John Cena to what he was. And as a matter of fact, you all got real nervous because I went up there without your permission, knowing y'all would try and screw it up somehow. So I took it upon myself. Cuban sent a limo down here. I stole your camera crew, which you didn't take too kindly to. I went up there. We got all the video footage shot. They put Cena over like $1 million. I taught Tim Hardaway how to shoot 3-pointers before the Pacer game. And then all over the press the next day was Kenny Bolin and Mark Cuban are going to squash the WWE like a bug, because that was the quote out of Cuban's mouth, the last thing he said on the video. And you got nervous. Jim Ross got nervous. Vince McMahon got nervous. And this is an absolute shoot, people.
I was about to say, I hate to say this, but ladies and gentlemen, this is the first time hell has frozen over. Kenny Bolin has just told the truth.
I woke up the next morning and my job had been threatened. Cornette was hot. Jim Ross was hot. Danny Davis was hot. Vince McMahon was even hotter, because not only did they think maybe I just might be crooked enough or smart enough, whatever word you want to use, to cause a bit of a monkey wrench into the WWE, but they knew with Mark Cuban's financial backing that I could do about any goddamn thing I wanted, and that was my full intent. But they got all hot about it. And then what did Vince McMahon do to try and make himself look good? The very next Monday Night Raw they did in the United Airlines down there in Dallas, Texas, the arena that Mark Cuban owns, they put him on television with Eric Bischoff and The Undertaker to try to make it look like it was their idea.
Ladies and gentlemen, I wish I could say Kenny Bolin was lying, but if you go back, I'm sure it's on the internet. The WWF owns the footage now, but because they bought it, but if you go back on the internet, Kenny Bolin did an interview with John Cena and Mark Cuban before Mark Cuban appeared on Raw. I'm sad to say that this is legitimately the truth. And I don't know how the fuck that you managed.
I didn't think I'd ever get to say this to you, Jimmy, but tell him how great I am, Jimmy. Tell him how great I am. I love hearing this.
Well, that's your story, but it's unfortunately, that is true. I'll give you that, Bolin.
Well, thank you. I appreciate it. I worked hard to get something out of you today.
As a matter of fact, I think since the first time that I met you, that's the first time that you have actually told the unvarnished truth. You know, I met Kenny Bolin 40 years ago at the Oldham County Fair. I was standing in line at the ticket booth. I reached back in my pocket to grab my wallet to pay for a ticket and shook hands with Kenny Bolin, and our friendship has grown ever since then.
And, everyone thinks that you're lying about that, but your wallet was about to fall out of your pants. You remember you wore those loose jeans back then. You didn't really have the ass to fill them out then. Your wallet was falling out of your pants. I saved you about $90 that day.
You were trying to do me a service.
Absolutely. You don't think I'd stick my hand in your pants for any other reason, do you?
Well, I have no.
Well, absolutely not. Known you 40 years. If that was my intentions, that would have come up by now.
Well, look, let's talk a little. As a matter of fact, let's talk a little U of L basketball.
Oh,
because the one thing that we both agree on, there's few of them, but the one thing we both agree on is that the University of Louisville Cardinals are without doubt the greatest college basketball program in the country.
Most on it.
For 30 years under Denny Crum, the greatest college basketball coach of all time, U of L has been triumphant, but especially the past couple of seasons, the worm has turned. Now, as you'll recall, 2 years ago, the University of Kentucky Wildcats were the NCAA champions, and they defeated U of L in the annual Great Kentucky Shootout. And they went on to win the NCAA championship. But then last year, the worm turned. And for all our worldwide fans, and we've got a bunch of folks from outside the country that might not be aware of this. Last year, Kentucky went in thinking they were going to win it all again. But U of L snuck in there, and U of L ended
preseason number 3 ranking Kentucky went in with last year.
Yep. And what happened, not only did U of L win the annual Great Kentucky Shootout, and folks, if you're not from the state of Kentucky, you don't understand, but this is the biggest thing since the rematch between Jesus and Judas. This is the Kentucky and Louisville the thing. And last season, not only did U of L defeat Kentucky in the annual Great Kentucky Shootout, but then U of L went on to become, in a Cinderella story out of nowhere, the NCAA basketball champions, but also they humiliated the University of Kentucky, who fell apart. And last year in the tournament, in the NCAA tournament, the University of Louisville not only went through the whole thing in that Cinderella story, Kevin Ware's broken leg, but the University of Kentucky Wildcats were reduced. They didn't get a chance to even get in the NCAA tournament. They got in the NIT tournament, and they were playing
the Nobody's Invitational Tournament. It's now called
Invitational Tournament, and they were playing in some ridiculous little high school gym, much like a Ring of Honor show. Robert Morris University's field house, while the University of Louisville played their first round NCAA tournament games at Rupp Arena in Lexington, Kentucky, the home of the
renamed Russ Arena.
Russ Smith, the University of Louisville's finest player. But while U of L was taking over Rupp Arena in Lexington, Kentucky, which caused literally suicides in the street in Lexington, Kentucky,
painted the town red.
UK was up there at Robert Morris in an unair-conditioned field house, much like the
opening round,
the Bell Vernon, Pennsylvania, and they lost in the opening round.
Yeah, the first ever number 1 seed of the NIT to lose in the opening round to a 16 seed. It never happened in the history of NIT basketball.
Much less former NCAA champions. It was like George South defeating Ric Flair in 2 straight falls. Meanwhile, U of L went on to win it all. And now this season...
Now, what's been less heard of, George South or the Robert Morris University?
Actually,
that's a tough one there.
George South is John Cena next to Robert Morris University in basketball. But now tell the fans...
Yeah.
Kenny Bolin, I'll play the part of Nick Goulas. Kenny Bolin, if you can, tell these fans exactly what the fuck's going on this year with U of L's season and University of Kentucky's season.
Well, it all started out in Kentucky. They got preseason ranked number 1. So here we are, the national champions, returning quite a few of our players to the field. And everybody's all thinking, hey, it's got to be Louisville to be number 1. They're the reigning national champions. They're bringing back most of their players. But not Rick Pitino. That's our coach. That John Calipari went out, that slimy bastard, went out and apparently greased some palms of some parents, and he got the number 1 recruiting class in America. He got 8 McDonald's All-Americans, them burger All-Americans, as they call them. They're going to be number 1. And Calipari out of his own mouth said, we're going to go 40-0. That's our goal. We're going 40-0, people. And he even had shirts printed up at the bookshop for all the students to wear. It says 40-0. And then what happened? They played Michigan State. And then they became 39-1. And then they played Baylor, who beat their ass last year, and now the best they can do is 38-2. And then they played, who was it here recently, Jimmy? Do you remember?
I don't even know. Probably a girls' team. It was a girls' team.
No, it wasn't a girls' team. It was Upper South Carolina. That's who they played. They played Upper South Carolina, better known as North Carolina, and they beat their ass like redheaded stepchildren. So now we're down to 37-3. And then the mighty Cardinals are coming up the 28th, and they're getting a little better as the Cats are getting a little worse, and they're going to collide at Russ Arena.
Well, because wait a minute now, U of L is what, 9-1 right now?
9-1 right now. We slipped up against North Carolina, up in South Carolina. They got us too. We weren't prepared for them. But we're going to be prepared for the Wildcats is all I can tell you.
But see, U of L, it's good if U of L loses a few games early in the season because that just makes them better. And that just makes them want it more. But UK, because UK is over there on the rich side of the state. They're over there. They're snobs is what they are. And the rich kids, whereas University of Louisville, they're the inner city kids. They're hungry. They want it more.
We take less and get more every single year. We take the kids that the University of Kentucky doesn't want. We take them and not only play by the rules, not only don't have countless NCAA investigations against us, we beat their ass, and they're having a big-time problem with it. And they even try to count those 8 national titles they got. They try to hang that over our head. 5 of them were before the NCAA was number 1 to the NIT. The NIT was the bigger of the groups back then. But now that the NCAA rules it, they count those 5 that really were secondary titles at the time, but no one ever wants to talk about that. So really, Kentucky has 3 real national titles, and Louisville has 3. We're dead even. It could all be settled this year, once and for all.
And as a matter of fact, I always, when I'm recruiting wrestling talent, when I'm training. Shut up now. When I'm training pro wrestling talent, when I'm recruiting wrestling talent, I go back to the words of the immortal Denny Crum, who was the assistant to John Wooden, the greatest college basketball coach of all time, and who went on to set up a dynasty in the University of Louisville. I always say what Denny Crum said. I don't want guys that can play basketball. I want guys that can jump because I can teach them how to play basketball. And that's the same way I feel about training pro wrestlers. And let's switch gears one more time because I see by the old clock on the wall that it's about time to end this program. But by popular demand, because nobody believes this story, even though it's been out in many places, I want you to explain. I want you to explain to the folks that listen to the Jim Cornette Experience, the cult of Cornette, the Kroger double your money back meat guarantee and why that will never, ever be offered again.
All right. Here's exactly the God's honest truth, 100% shoot. It was not a scam. Jerry Jarrett labeled it as such. Cornette is labeled
it wasn't a scam because it was what they left themselves open for. But explain how that you lived for months at a time 20 years ago.
What I did when I lived in Nashville, Tennessee, and I hope there's no statute. Well, there can't be a statute of limitations because
statute of limitations on anything but murder is 7 years. So you can go ahead and you can feel free to fucking confess whatever you want.
Dean Hill says any felony that was over $1,000 is, so it depends who I want to believe, you or a guy.
Well, who are you going to believe? A former University of Louisville or a former Louisville police officer, former member of the SWAT team, or me? Right. Go ahead.
Well, I guess I'll have to think on that.
And besides that, they'd have to find out what your real name is and one of your many Social Security numbers.
Well, I've only had a few. I am going to tell the story. I'm going to tell the story, but as it ends, you and I together, we need to plug the CAC, our good friend Wolfie Sanderson, the Cauliflower Alley Club.
Yes, a member.
You're a member. I'm a member. Very few members. Vince McMahon's not a member, but we need to plug that before we go. But now I'll tell the story. Okay. What happened was I had bought 4.5 pounds of ground beef at Kroger. I think it was about $1.59 a pound back then, give or take. And I got home and it had some gristle in it. So I took the meat innocently, took it back to the store, and we had paid in the neighborhood of about $8 for that meat, counting the 8 3/4% tax down in Tennessee. And they handed me back, to my surprise, in the neighborhood of $16 and change. I said, well, goddamn, only paid $8 for it. What's going on here? Oh, well, sir, you've just got to take advantage of our double your money back meat policy. Anytime you get meat at Kroger and you don't like it, we double your money back.
They basically said, if this is not the best meat that you've ever put in your mouth, we will double your money back.
That's exactly what they said. And then I'll go home and I'll start paying attention to the ads. Alex, if you remember Alex, he was the head meat guy of all the Krogers and all the land. And
he was on all the commercials.
And he came on TV and he asked for it to be that way. He wanted you to bring that meat back if you weren't happy with it. And I said, well, shit, Alex is going to be out of a job if somebody don't do something about this. And you can't possibly like every piece of meat you put in your mouth. It's got to seem real. So what I did, I thought about some meat that I didn't really like that had a little bit of cost to it. And that was called pork loins. And these particular pork loins at this time, they come in a big long tube, and Kroger sold them, and they sold anywhere from $95 to $105 a roll. And I
because they were huge. I remember they were huge, heavy.
They were huge and heavy. Exactly. It's exactly what they were. Just shut up.
Yeah, keep going.
So I went to a Kroger and purchased these $105 pork loins, a great investment on my part. $105 was a lot of money back then, especially if you lose it on some meat you don't like. But I didn't fear because I knew that they were going to double my money back.
You knew they were going to stand behind this meat. If you got this meat and this meat was gristly or tough or not tasteful, that they were going to stand behind it like the honorable people that they were.
If I saw anything green, anything like that. So what I did is I bought that meat.
You keep going.
I bought that meat. I took it home, and we cut from the middle of the meat because we figure if there's going to be any flaws, anything's wrong with this meat, it's going to be in the middle. It ain't going to be in the ends. So we cut the meat in the middle, and we had a great dinner. We fed the neighbors, and the neighbors come, and one of the neighbors looked at me and he says, "Kenny, that ain't exactly what I was expecting." I said, you know what? That's what I was waiting to hear. I want somebody to be upset with his meat.
You were just waiting to hear if somebody said that just wasn't me.
I didn't want to be the guy. I bought the meat.
Be the one. You didn't want to be the negative Nancy. No. Gloomy Gus.
Not me. That's not what I'm about.
You accept it.
But my neighbor Edwin, he was pretty upset about it.
Everybody knows Edwin is a fucking prime assessor of meat quality.
Edwin was the meat connoisseur of the town, and everyone knew if it didn't meet Edwin's utmost standings, the meat should go back. So what I did is I left it out on the counter and told my wife to take that meat back. Well, unfortunately, I had put half of it back in the refrigerator. So she took the piece of meat that had the price tag on it.
You keep your meat numbered for just such an occasion.
Yes, I did. So she took that half of the meat back to the Kroger that we bought it at, like a good, honest, decent citizen, and they gave her back $220 some odd dollars, counting the tax. So there I am sitting with another half of meat in my fridge and the receipt. And I'm like, well, shit, I can take that anyway. I can go to any Kroger in the land with this, and I think they'll give me my money back. So I go in to another Kroger, which I think is totally within my rights, and I hand them the receipt and the meat, and I said, we didn't like that meat. It didn't taste right. Edwin really didn't like it. So they counted me out $225 more. Well, I've made $450 off an investment of $105 after Tennessee sales tax. And I said, well, I've got me quite a little thing going here, because you know what? If Edwin didn't like that strip of meat, he ain't going to like the next one.
There's no reason to think that he'd like the next one if he didn't like that one.
The next one. And they're probably going to buy some meat I don't like, or if I find anything gristly in it, it's going back. I'm going to
or if you see anything green.
If I see anything green. And sometimes I did. I mean, that's where that came from. I saw something green and it didn't look right. So I took it back and made $450. So what I did is I basically set up a distributorship. I had the Tennessee, Georgia, Kentucky territory, and I would even teach people how to do this. And I taught my customers
for a small seduced rate, a little percentage off of the top.
I got 25% of the haul.
I figured you did.
I got 25% of the haul, but I am teaching them a craft. I don't get 25%. And so I would go to all the Krogers that I could go to throughout that entire southern area, Kentucky, Tennessee, Georgia.
Never the same one twice.
No, by the time you're circulated all through them, they'd done forgotten you'd ever been there, and you could start all over again.
Well, there you go. Yeah,
that was the plan. So poor Ma Bolin, back to Ma Bolin, who's living in that single wide with 8 people right now.
This is what started the animosity between you and Ma Bolin, because she kind of.
This is where shit went south, because she had the nerve. She heard I'd been making up to $4 and $5 grand a week on this as labeled meat scam, which you've heard my opinion on it. And
it was a meat opportunity.
Meat opportunity. Thank you, Jimmy. That is the best way I've ever heard that phrased yet. A meat opportunity. So what I did, I said, well, Mom, I can't give you cash out of what I've made. That's hard-earned money on my part. I got gas invested. I got time invested. My poor wife, who doesn't really like to do this, I've had her go in and do a few of these to keep my picture off their retinas for a while. We had to keep changing the look. Had to keep changing what these managers were seeing. So Ma goes into one of my local
and
programs.
You're a memorable looking motherfucker, if I do say so myself.
Apparently that's what, and I only weighed 275 back then. I didn't think I was that memorable, but apparently that leads to a Ronnie Millsap story in a bank I'll have to tell you on the next show that you have me on.
We're going to do that one on the sequel, but go ahead.
Sequel. So she goes in, and voila, it worked exactly like I told her it would. She got 200 and something bucks. Now only she needs a couple hundred more, and she's got $450, give or take, to go to Florida and visit Grandma Bolin. Well, we take her to the second store, and she comes out, and I'm sitting out there in my 78 not LTD, but Thunderbird, and all of a sudden I see tears pouring down her eyes. She's crying her goddamn eyes out. And even worse, she has no meat and no money in her hand. She has nothing. I yell at her, say, hey, what the hell's going on? Why are you crying? Kitty, the manager in this store was at the other store, and he recognized me, and he told me if I ever do this again, they're going to lock me up. I said, well, for crying out loud, go back in there and tell him that you returned after Jimmy Cornette, because I knew you never did that in Nashville. Tell him you returned after Jimmy Cornette, and you're terribly sorry about this, but you got confused on the return policy, that you thought that you were entitled to do that, and tell him that you returned it for Jimmy Cornette, and he'll smooth all this out when he gets back. So she goes back in to let him know that it was you. And I knew you was never coming to Nashville. I know you got hot about it, and you even told Jarrett, but you knew you was never going back to Nashville because Jarrett
not
wasn't
after that. No, I wasn't. No.
Well, Jarrett wasn't paying you the money you wanted anyway. So she comes back out, and I had to lecture her a little bit. I said, you do realize you fucked up this part of the territory. And me and you, our relationship is going to suffer from this. I'm going to go ahead and give you the money out of my back pocket.
For those who wondered what happened, what caused the downfall of the territory system, it was Ma Bolin not being able to do the beat up
the whole territory. Because apparently when they got onto her there, they started looking into receipts. They started looking into signatures. They started looking at security cameras, which there weren't a lot of back then. And it just crumbled the whole fucking territory, which led me to have to get into the insurance business.
Yeah, which, as a matter of fact, let me cut you off. There is a whole nother story for another day. But, ladies and gentlemen, that is what led to the downfall of the territory system in the meat business, much less the rest of the business.
You don't see it anymore, and Alex is out of a job.
At least there were people that were making more money in the meat opportunity territory business than there were in the wrestling opportunity territory business. Ladies and gentlemen, that's our Christmas week program.
No, you got to plug CAC.
Well, hold on. I want to tell everybody, if you want to hear more of Kenny Bolin, and some people like, according to some German videos I've seen, like to have their balls nailed to a step stool. So why wouldn't you want to hear more Kenny Bolin? We want you to write. Alice, are you still, have you gone to sleep, or have you run?
Signed off.
I am still here.
Okay, Alice, tell the folks, shut up, Bolin. Tell the folks where they can write to Corny's drive-thru to ask questions, and also to say whether they want to hear more Kenny Bolin. Where can they write to?
That will be cornette@mlw.com.
Okay, ladies and gentlemen, I don't know if any of you have stuck with this fucking program long enough to hear the end of this Who Shot John, but if you have, Merry Christmas.
What about KWB at MLW.com? What about my own?
I was about to say, Kenny, before we go, if you would plug all the latest scams or offers that you have going on your Twitter, your Facebook.
Whew, you scared me.
people that are not affiliated with law enforcement get a hold of you to take advantage of your various offers?
I want you to know that a member of the Hillview Fire Department and a part-time police officer has had me as his guest at his home on Christmas. I am no longer wanted by anybody of the federal nature.
Just do your plugs so we can finish
All
this.
right. Well, this coming Thursday night at the Golden Corral. Well, it ain't going to be this Thursday because it's already happened. But future Thursdays at the Golden Corral.
Facebook and shit.
Well, you're going to have a chance to get my headphones. I'm doing the dinners. We're going to do those once a month. Go to my Facebook page, Facebook.com/StarMaker Bolin. That's all you got to do. You'll see the updates on any appearances that I'm doing, where you can get your headphones for $29.95. Where you can get your T-shirts for $19.95. Of course, shipping and handling and taxes charges apply. And Twitter /StarMaker Bolin once again. Hell, I don't know if I got much more or not. That's about it. Just buy my shirt, buy my DVDs, buy my my headphones, especially Beats by Bolin, BEETS. And they're going like hotcakes, and hotcakes are going pretty quick right now because it's cold this time of year. So please buy my headphones.
Ladies and gentlemen, there you have it. From the Edgar Buchanan, the Andy Devine of pro wrestling, my good lifelong friend and pal, Kenny Starmaker Bolin, the king himself, King B. You can find him if you see a car, if you see a black Cadillac driving
Lincoln Town car. I sold the Cadillac.
Sorry, traded in the black Lincoln Town car with a BS logo on every door, driving around Louisville, Kentucky. That's Kenny Bolin.
That's me.
Find him on the internet. Find him on Twitter. Find him on Facebook. Just hope the law.
Corral, Gaddyland, Hooters. I'm at all. Roosters. I'm at all of them.
Yeah. Hopefully, law enforcement won't find him. And that's the Jim Cornette Experience for Christmas week. We'll be back next week with hopefully a program that redeems us for this one. Ladies and gentlemen, until then, for Alice Radley, for the absent Court Bauer, and for Kenny Starmaker Bolin, the biggest man in wrestling, and I mean that literally, this is Jim Cornette for The Experience. So long and Merry Christmas.